I noticed.
If I can pull that off, I can do some more prospecting.
Probably live.
That's all right. I gotta fix my screen here. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're looking at that. Oh, those a-holes from Breakfast Club are live.
Yeah.
Good.
We are.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about this new revelation. I'm going to look into today and see if we can make that happen. So we'll see. Anyway, so it's
I
morning.
decided to use
Whoa, he's screaming. Whoa,
your volume up me up. I decided to use my unconditional Grant mug.
Okay, all right. That sounds like you're doing an unconditional outdoor voice right now, but it's okay. For some reason, you come very loud to this anyway.
Just like headphones were invented, volume control is a wonderful thing too.
Oh, I see. Someone woke up and chose evil today. Here, go ahead, say something.
Okay.
All right, that's better. No, for some reason it was just loud. Anyway, who cares? Doesn't matter. Yell at me all the time anyway. So what's going on with you? What's happening?
Barbara, hi. I didn't know you were doing this today. Yeah, I don't think I did the invite until not the invite, the Facebook post until like a few days ago. Elsie, happy snow day from Reynolds' hometown. He's in Lancaster.
Lancaster. Yeah, that's yeah. I saw they got some more snow back in God's country down there.
Just let me double check the Facebook post on this.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of snow for Gettysburg. I mean, last year there wasn't too much at all. So, but it's gonna be warm out. So by the time we make it down there whenever we get down there later this week, it should be gone. LC is cordially invited to shovel my driveway if the mood is striking.
I'm sure he'll get right on that.
I mean, they rebuilt the Wrightsville Bridge from Lancaster, so you can go over, you can cross that. And you can jump on. You can come do that, LC, anytime you want. Feel free. But no, but it's good. I mean, it's snowing out here now, so I think we're gonna have a little bit of snow. I don't think it's gonna be too much though.
Morning, David. We'll be seeing David Maxwell in a few days. He's also one of the winners of our books on our trivia night that we had on Tuesday night, which was a lot of fun.
And your homework assignment, Mary, is to remind me to bring his book that he won to Gettysburg.
Yes.
Because when shenanigans are afoot this weekend, we will have it. We'll give him his book.
Yep.
But that'll be good. So it'll be good. It'll be a good time. I'm very excited that this event is finally coming up. It seems like we've been talking about it forever and ever since last year's foolishness. We've been talking about it. So now we get to participate.
Well, you know what? That backfired hardcore because it created awareness for the event, and it also it brought it made it even popular, which is awesome. What we're talking about is next weekend at the seminary. In Gettysburg, there is an event with Jim Hessler and Eric Lindblade and Jody Wilson from the Battle of Gettysburg podcast, and then Stu Dempsey, who's a licensed battlefield guide, and then Pete Mealy and Cody East from the seminary are giving talks as well. And it's about the retreat from Gettysburg. And I think this is the second or third. This is the third year they've done the event, but it really took off last year for certain reasons.
Well, they say, what they say, Mary, any publicity is good publicity. And, but it's okay. So I think that's going to be a great event. They're doing the retreat from Gettysburg. And rumor has it, Mary, that Jim Hessler is the leadoff man for the event. So that's cool. So he'll be talking about old Uncle Dan.
Yeah, I think he's talking about Sickles and what happened when Sickles went back to Washington after he was wounded. I know there's one talk about kind of the media coverage. And then I think Jody Wilson is talking about Maryland. In relation to the retreat and the battle. So yeah, it'll be a really good time. And I know they have a waiting list, but they are sold out in person, but there's still a virtual option for the event as well. Yeah. So if anybody who is not in the Gettysburg area or can't make, you want to make it in person, but you can still do the virtual option, and the virtual option is $35, I think.
And if you're not familiar with the retreat and you don't have time to read Kent Masterson Brown's fantastic book on the retreat, feel free to go back in the Wayback Machine, Mary, and listen to our episode on the retreat.
Yes.
Because everything that they talk about was covered in our episode, except they're going to be going into much more detail. So I'm looking forward to it. That'll be good to see some good friends down there. I'm looking forward to seeing some smiling faces, some shenanigans. I'm sure there'll be some glasses emptied in some of the local establishments in town. So we'll see. We'll see who comes. We'll definitely be looking for. If you are in town for this weekend, shoot us a line. Always up for catching up somewhere, getting a drink. I know we're going to be doing a little history thing with old Mr. Maxwell. he's going to cry in his beer over the Detroit Lions. I owed him a beer, so I got to make sure.
You told him you were.
I got to make sure I follow through on that, which of course I always will. But we will definitely take care of that.
Okay.
Anyway,
I just posted in the chat. I just posted a link to the annual symposium, which we're going to next year, and it has details about the virtual attendance, which I think is like $35, which is it's going to a good cause. So, and it gives you something to do next Saturday as well. Morning, Lisa.
Yeah. Lisa, how you doing? Yeah, that's gonna be a good time. I think a lot of people look forward to it, and they're great speakers, all of them, and this is something they're really into, and it's a great way to support it. I mean, if you are going face to face and you're going to sit in there, you get to have breakfast, you get to have lunch, but you also get a tour of the Seminary Museum if you haven't been, including the cupola, Mary. You can go up there and you can see where old John Reynolds met with old Buford. Speaking of Reynolds, he was our episode we did this past week. It feels like forever ago we did that, and we talked about his salacious but yet secret love affair with one Kate Hewitt, Mary, which was an interesting study for people who don't study that aspect of John Reynolds' life. It's a fascinating one. He had a very, very interesting life, no question.
Well, we had a question on the YouTube channel. I was going to defer to you to answer it. It was a comment on our video, but and it'll be relevant for here too. But the person asked, like, why was John Reynolds so popular? Like, what made him such a big figure in the civil, like, kind of in that area? And I think we touched on it in the episode briefly. Like where he's kind of a soldier, like he's a real soldier, like he's always upfront with his men, which kind of puts him in dangerous situations. So that's one reason he's so popular. I think he's John Reynolds. There's just something about him, kind of like in the way there was something about Hancock that made Hancock so popular as well.
Well, Reynolds, they said he was a soldier's soldier. He was a guy who was very popular. His men loved him. He was someone they could count on.
Yeah.
And so for eventually, and he rose pretty quickly too. He got to the point when even Abraham Lincoln offered him the big seat, and he told him to go, and the horse you rode in on, because he didn't want to deal with the politics. But he's the head of the First Corps, and when he gets shot, his staff are guys like Charles Vale, for example. They never get over it, and the story of his death is sad. But again, it's the place you put when you go there. And the thing about it is, every time a big fish gets bagged, like John Reynolds, it's always a sharpshooter. They never attribute it to some local.
We'll never 100% know. I mean, with McPherson, it wasn't a sharpshooter because he was so damn close to the Confederates.
No, but a lot of Rebs, claimed afterwards that they were the ones who shot John Reynolds. But again, it's a million things. But it's but where he was, I mean, he was pretty close to the Jan Herbst Woodlot. He could have been anybody, but yeah, it's always one of those things. But he didn't make it. Spoiler alert, he didn't make it. And we talked a little bit in the episode about the plight of his body, and they couldn't go to Lancaster. They had to go south, had to go to Union Bridge, and then to Baltimore, and then basically to Philadelphia, where he laid and stayed at his sister Catherine's house for a day. This is on July 3rd. He had just got embalmed, so he wasn't looking too good. His face was, they say, mostly half of it was jet black.
Yeah.
They put a glass plate over the coffins and make his face visible. And then on the 4th, he gets buried back in Lancaster Cemetery, rather. But yeah, and then the story with Kate comes out with this relationship, and he kept it secret. And there are rumors that old Winnie boy knew about it, Hancock, that he didn't say anything. Because the big question people have about Kate Hewitt is how she found out about it. Because she shows up at the doorstep of Catherine Reynolds.
The sisters. Yeah,
the sisters. In stories, she was in the Philadelphia area at the time, but she said, did she read it in the papers? Did she find out about it? But some people think that old Winnie boy is the one who tipped her off, so he knew. So he was in cahoots.
Yes. I never heard that before. So that was something I learned during the episodes. I never heard that, but I could see, kind of the soldier thing, like just keeping it quiet, that Reynolds just needed to tell somebody. So AQ said that, like, regarding Reynolds being popular, he's charismatic, and then being killed on day one at Gettysburg, probably most well known in the battle, kind of puts him on a bit of a pedestal. And then Elsie mentions Beaver Dam Creek and Second Bull Run are his favorite Reynolds moments. And then
not Boston Swamp.
Good morning, Jim. AQ mentions that Kim Arnold, who is she listened to the episode, anyway, she said she studied Reynolds and Kate extensively, and she put up a beautiful poem she wrote on her Facebook page about them. So that's pretty cool. Kim is very
Yeah.
and Kim is very into that story, just like Elsie's very into Reynolds as well, which is cool. It's good that people are telling their story, which is great.
See, Jim Samuel's on here. You said he went to the
Yep.
BC UMass game. Jim, I'm pretty sure BC just scored again. That's that game. I got it was a little close to the score it indicates, but the good guys won, thank God. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow for the rematch. But anyway, but that whole story is a fascinating one, because what's great about it is all the details are still coming out now. This is not some love affair like that's been going on for years and years and years. And it just goes to show that as you continue to study this, there's more info that does come out. And there's a recent Battlefield guide who wrote a book about it. And he's been doing the Rubber Chicken Tour talking about the books, his book. And what's great about it is the more academic study that comes out about it, where they thought that the original Kate Hewitt was buried in Stillwater, New York. And she had that famous vow where if John died, that she'd go to the religious life base. The people think she was going to be a nun. That was
but
never
who
really
knows what that means,
do.
if it means that she would just like not marry anybody else, kind of like McPherson's fiance didn't. I don't think she ever married again at all. Well, she wasn't married to James McPherson in the first place because Sherman wouldn't give leave. And that was like one thing that's kind of sidetracked here. One thing that really surprised me is that after that happened, Sherman was still not known for giving leave. Like, it's like he was really broken up about it and said he would regret it. But then when his officers would approach him for leave, like, oh, hey, we've been campaigning for a little bit, could I possibly go? He was always like, no, you can't.
No,
which
had a job
like
to do.
you'd think you would like kind of like, okay, we're not doing anything, we're just sitting on our asses. You can go back for like 2 days and see your family. But I get it, it's the military.
No, it's a totally different thing. I mean, if you if you look at just the story of these guys, and he was somebody who was always the front of his line. And we did and we did trivia the other day, and we had some fun with that. We talked about some different things, but as you study these people, it always fascinates me. Augustus Van Horn Ellis, for example, the Orange Blossom Regiment, 124th New York, where him and Major Cromwell, they decide they need to be seen by their men, and they rode down that hill to the triangular field, probably ducking ghosts all the way, down there. And they both get killed. But I mean, it's almost out of character. But at that moment, it just hits them, and you wonder for John Reynolds, he'd always been up with his men anyway. But to put himself with the 2nd Wisconsin of all people, and it's interesting because of all the studies that you talk about Reynolds, by all accounts, he was with the 2nd Wisconsin when he was shot. And if that's true, then they got the Marcus site wrong. Because 2nd Wisconsin was a little further towards the road.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time at Gettysburg that they've got the marker wrong.
But who knows? But obviously that's where they say he fell, and who knows? But maybe he was riding up and down the line. But he would have been right up there with the front of his guys, which where a lot of these people were shot and killed. And we talked a lot about guys like Beauregard. It's Shiloh who was riding up front, who survived. So it's a total guys like Phil Kearny, Hazard Stevens, and all these people who ride up front who get shot. But then there's some people like Leonidas Polk who get right up front and get away. Guy like Felix Zollicoffer didn't make it.
God, he was a trivia answer the other night.
But it just goes to show you, these guys rolled the dice, and some survived and some didn't. But it really just comes out of what happens to you, I suppose,
John
right?
Brown Gordon, did you mention him? He's kind of the same way. He's always up. And I just looked it up. James McPherson, who was in the Western Theater and killed at the Battle of Atlanta, his fiance's name was Emily Hoffman, and she was from Baltimore. And she locked herself up for like a year. And then when she finally emerged, she just was like what would be termed a spinster for the rest of her life. So she never married again. But yeah, Sherman wrote her, I think, a couple of letters after McPherson had died, saying like, basically like, wow, I regret not giving him leave because then we'd still have him, blah, blah, blah. And you're, kind of going to be alone. You're without him, and all that. Elsie mentioned, speaking of Reynolds, Moritz Tavern meeting is one of my top 5 Civil War moments I'd like to be at. Same.
Yeah, we've talked about that. The Moritz Tavern meeting was a was a good one. It was for the last time Reynolds ever went to bed, woke up, right?
Yeah.
The famous meeting with your boy Oliver Otis Howard. I'm bringing him up of all things. That can't be a good sign.
Everyone take a drink.
Obviously Captain Dickinson is there with the Pipe Creek circular plans that were.
I think Charles Howard was there too.
Yeah, yeah, and so it begs all those questions about what did Reynolds know about Pipe Creek? He got the plans. Did he ever read them? Yeah. I think he did. I mean, if Kent Masters and Brown's right, and I'm pretty sure he is on this, and that whole thing was the reconnaissance in force. Which, if you're in the military, you're on a reconnaissance in a force. That's a shitty job. If not for nothing, it just is, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a reconnaissance in force and you draw the enemy out and you're fighting and you're falling back. The two things about the first day at Gettysburg that I don't know, and no one seems to really know, was why did Doubleday, under the impression that Reynolds was going to fight street for street for the town of Gettysburg, which offered absolutely no strategic value whatsoever. Mr. G's didn't exist yet, so why would they fight there?
Maybe they're going for the DQ.
Explains why Winnie Boy rode up so quick in that ambulance, though. So maybe it was, right? But why they did that? But second of all, so he obviously had plans. He must have told him we're going to fight and defend the city, which goes against the plan. But the question was Buford, and we've had some fun with this, right?
Yeah.
Was why Buford ended up where he did, and why he was fighting to stall. Because by all accounts, he's supposed to fall back. Reynolds, maybe he was going to fall back to the 11th Corps and lead back to Maryland, but he got killed and screwed the whole plan up. Maybe Doubleday misinterpreted his plans or didn't know what Reynolds' plans were and said, well, we're fighting here. We might as well fight here. So maybe the whole battle at Gettysburg is because Doubleday misinterpreted Reynolds' plans. But that's what's cool. That's why you study this stuff.
Well, right? But what's interesting, though, is Howard obviously knew what Reynolds' plans were because he had spoken to him the night before and he stayed in the town. And I suspect he probably knew more than he writes about in his memoirs. He's pretty vague.
Well, I mean, that's what's great about, Elsie mentions the Moritz Tavern. Who's to say Reynolds didn't tell Howard what he was thinking either?
I think Howard probably did. I think Reynolds probably did tell Howard exactly what he was thinking. And because it was kind of against what Meade had wanted, or was kind of like, I think, Reynolds is like, well, Meade wants us to do this, but I think we should do this. And it was not going against orders, but it kind of was. So I think they had their own plan. And whatever it was, like Howard and Charles don't really write about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. They always say knowledge is power, and it'd be fascinating. That's why, I mean, he's right about that. That's a meeting that really, if you want to be a fly on the wall, that's the one to be at, because that would answer so much. Because Howard comes up, he's ordered up. Sickles gets ordered up. He splits his corps to maintain protecting the Union left and coming to Gettysburg, as Howard orders Sickles up. So I don't know. No one knows. That's what's cool about it, is that there's a million things you can come up with. And that's why when you go online and some of the serious Facebook pages, Mary, that talk about the Battle of Gettysburg and the Civil War, they talk about, well, this is what happened. This is what happened. You know why? Because I saw it in the movie, Mary. That's why.
Oh God, right? I saw this one post which was like, and I had to laugh. I mean, I can't remember which one it was on, but it was talking about how, so the person was going to read Kent Masterson Brown's books about Gettysburg. So meet at Gettysburg and then retreat, right? Mm-hmm. And then he was going on about it. And then the person said, but in the book, the Killer Angels. And I was like, whoa, just stop. Like, I was kind of like, stop right there. Like, you can't compare the two. One is like historical fiction and the other is like, it's a history book, right? But this guy was going on about how something was portrayed the way it was in Killer Angels as if it was actual history. And I didn't say anything, but I think some people were stepping up and saying like, okay, Killer Angels is historical fiction. Like, you can't compare it to what Kent Masterson Brown has written. Also, Kent Masterson Brown is using documents that I don't think Michael Shera had access to at the time. So interpretation of whatever.
Well, I mean, Brown's a historian. Shera is a novelist. I mean,
yes, exactly. But what I'm saying is like, the two in the same, like, you can't really, I don't know. The guy was saying like, this is what was argued in the Killer Angels as if it was factual. And I was like, well, this is what's wrong. Like the people that are taking that it's real history and it's not.
No, therein lies the problem. But what's great about history, the double-edged sword of it, is that you can go both ways with it. There's a gray area with it, and when you look at specifically that specific battle, I know we don't just do Gettysburg. We always tend to talk about Gettysburg all the freaking time, but that's what we're talking about right now. But since we're talking about Reynolds, but if you're going to look at that specific battle, how they got there, why they got there, it's one of the best parts about it, and why people need to study the preamble, the June 3rd up to June 31st, and then you're going to study from July 4th till they cross through Williamsport again, because the best part of the Battle of Gettysburg is the campaign. It's the lead up, and I just don't mean the cavalry stuff at Brandy Station and Aldie and Middlebury, Upperville, all that stuff. I'm talking about the actual psychology of when Meade takes over, because don't forget, you've got John Brown Gordon going across. He's trying to go visit LC at Lancaster, right? But the locals, they burn the Wrightsville Bridge, and they have forced him back. So there's all these things going on all around the same time, while Meade's trying to figure out exactly what the hell Lee's doing, and Lee's trying to figure out what the hell Lee's doing.
Yeah. And the reason we say stuff about Facebook is because we're both on a lot of groups and stuff happens, and it's like, it's just part of the Civil War community. Facebook's a big part of it. And there's some really good groups out there, and there's some groups that are kind of like whatever, but I've learned stuff off of Facebook, and I've had I've had some really decent discussions with
we have fun with Facebook, but there always seems to be a 1%. And the reason why we're going off on this is because of the Round Top stuff. Immediately, that's where it comes from. But there's always the one that drives you crazy. But it's a good way to learn,
updates. Though. Like, I mean, if you want, like, there's really good communities out there, like Gettysburg, These Honored Dead, which AQ and MJ, they're the moderators. Yeah. They do trivia every Saturday night. Is really great. The trivia is a great way to learn stuff about the battle. And then there's like other groups out there too. Some of them are fun. Civil War Lampoon is pretty awesome. But whatever.
There's definitely positive to do it. And we have fun with it, but that's the reality. But I think what's good about it is you can, it's like reading the Mary Chestnut Diary. You're reading someone's interpretation, whether it's right or wrong, it's their interpretation. But there's social media in general, all of it is a great place to hold out to a point of complete, stubbornness and hold to it, because that's kind of how it is. But that's okay though. There's nothing wrong with it. We're not complaining about it. It's just that it's just fun. It's just fun to hear some of the perspectives and have some fun with some of the perspectives.
And LC brings up a really good point too. That he said he would have never met people here without Facebook, and that's very true. We would never, unless we had started the podcast, like, all that stuff. So it is we have a really great community of people that know so much about the Civil War that we get to hang out with in person. And without that, we wouldn't have that. And I mean, the other thing too is, Facebook, Instagram, like YouTube, all made the world a little bit smaller in the pandemic. And there's a lot of really awesome programming out there. People do different live streams, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. So on the whole, a positive community.
No, the Civil War community on Facebook is very, very smart overall. And I've said before, Civil War people, the smartest people I know. I mean, you can go on sports Facebook, try being a Patriot, be a Patriot fan, and go on the NFL.com Facebook page and say, "Hi, I'm a Patriot fan," and see what happens. I mean, I get all that. And that's a whole different type of thing. But it's fun, though. I enjoy it. Yeah. But we met a lot of cool people on Facebook, and a lot of my closest friends. So
and there's a lot of great discussions that I've seen happen on Facebook as well. Like there was one where, I don't know, I had a discussion with somebody on a page about when we did that hike through the Rosewoods, and they were talking about the different regiments that were there, and people were saying, "Oh, I haven't been there before," or whatever. And it's actually really, like, I mean, as much as we like joke around or whatever about it, or say like, this is what happened and it was really bad, there's a lot of positive that happens too, as well.
Well, they're definitely look, the whole thing's fun. That we do this for fun. We do this because we do, and I think we try to stay positive with that. I don't think we don't get in the muck with a lot of people, but like some people do, Mary. Like sometimes you do accidentally, you stumble in. You're like me, walking across that battle, stepping on horse piles all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go by the Spangler farm. Try not to step on the Spangler farm. It's impossible.
Inadvertently. AQ says I'd never Water Killer says people still use Facebook. I only use it for memes. I am 27 though, so none of my friends use it. That's the thing, is it's like the younger crowd, I should say the younger crowd isn't using it as much. It's more people, I guess, our age that are still using it, but it's a good way to connect. Like, it is a good way to connect.
They're all using TikTok now, Mary. You know,
TikTok.
That's what Jenny Wade used to use. TikTok. That's why she.
And the other thing too is we do Facebook Lives from there. If we're somewhere we don't use YouTube, we will do a Facebook Live like we did from Camp Letterman. So, but there are some funny stories, and it's kind of like you just commiserate with other like-minded people about it, because the same
absolutely. Yeah, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but it's.
I know MJ on here. She's got a great Facebook, like we said, like Gettysburg, these honored dead, as well as.
Is MJ on here?
She's on here now. She's got her page.
Oh, we can't make fun of Hancock anymore. Hold on.
She's got her page on there for for her. She portrays Pauline Cushman, and she's reached a lot of people that way. She's got a page for Hancock as well, which she does research about him. Hancock just had his 200th birthday on Valentine's Day.
We're going to see MJ this weekend, Mary. We're going to be talking about history. We're going to be talking about ice cold grills and invisible deer. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun things to old MJ over the weekend. There might even be whiskey, but go back to the whole thing we were talking before was when you talk about Reynolds, he gets killed up front, and a lot of times people, nowadays, you have generals, especially major generals, they're not going to be sitting up front with their men. They're likely going to be in the back, right? And that's what makes it really different. But when you look at I don't think Reynolds per se was reckless like a lot of people were. But I think he felt he needed to be seen. And I started to go on this rant a bit ago, and I kind of got off the track. But when you talk about, we did trivia the other day.
Yeah.
And one of the trivia answers was Elon Farnsworth. Right. And he's somebody who came over from the Department of Washington, ended up coming over with George Custer, with Stahill's cavalry eventually, which eventually got taken over by Judson Kilpatrick. But when you look at, people, I guess we're going to talk Gettysburg here. When you're talking about Gettysburg, right, and you're talking about cavalry, you're talking about the horses.
Yeah.
People tend to fall back on East Cavalry Field, right?
Yeah.
But they don't talk about South Cavalry Field. And since we're talking about being upfront and aggressive, because of Reynolds, you got to talk about the battle that took place at the end after Pickett's charge, which took place, which got Farnsworth killed. And a lot of people don't really study the battle. And we were talking before about the event coming up, the retreat, how there wasn't really an aggressive attack afterwards. And that's just not factually true, because if you study Kilpatrick, some people like cavalry, some people don't. But if you look at the end of the Battle of Gettysburg, you have on the Confederate right flank, you've got Evander Law's Alabamans. You also got the 1st Texas dotted all through that area, down by where Warfield Ridge is. You're going to have a cavalry attack, which is going to basically be disjointed, because of course it is, where you got Kilpatrick's cavalry and you got Wesley Merritt's cavalry, but Merritt doesn't report to Kilpatrick. He has the U.S. regulars, and Kilpatrick basically is going to attack with the 1st Vermont, the 1st West Virginia, 5th New York, and the 18th Pennsylvania Cavalry, right? They're going to attack across the fields, and Farnsworth's going to get killed. And if you're driving, you actually can't drive there because it's blocked off now.
Yeah.
But if you park where the Texas Monument is, and you walk around, you go around the barrier, because you can still walk down there, and you get to the Wells statue. He's the guy from the 1st Vermont who was part of that assault. He's standing there, and you can walk that path to Farnsworth Hill, and you can go to the monuments that no one goes to, like the 5th New York monuments up there, and the 1st Vermont, all those monuments, and you can get an idea of that cavalry attack, and you can make a case of was Farnsworth too aggressive, right? But you can get up there and you can check that stuff out. You know what's cool about Wells, by the way? No one knows who the hell freaking Wells, but he's gonna take over pretty much when Farnsworth goes down. When they made that statue, they modeled it with his exact uniform, his specs, his boots, really his jacket. And the people in Burlington, Vermont loved it so much, they took that statue, replicated it, and put it in Burlington. You know where he's you know where Wells is buried?
Same cemetery as Howard, right?
Is Howard, of course, and George Standard from the 1st Vermont. So if people drive by on the way to Big Round Top, they see the statue, this guy, and go, "Who the hell is that?" Well, that's Wells. Go up there and check out the path behind there, because that was all, where where Elon Farnsworth and Kilpatrick's cavalry launched from on that attack. And it's a great place to visit if you go to check it out, because no one goes up there, and you can get a really good idea of that cavalry attack. And the reason I may mention this is because it reminded me a little bit of Reynolds being up front.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Farnsworth, I mean, he's a fascinating guy.
Oh, yeah.
He went to University of Michigan, and he got kicked out of Michigan. He got kicked. Jim Harbaugh doesn't get kicked out of Michigan for cheating.
Why? I was going to say, was Farnsworth cheating on something? I didn't think they kicked people out for that.
Do you know what Farnsworth did in Michigan? He got hammered one day, and no one knows what happened, but somebody in his drink who he was drinking with got thrown out a window and died out of one of the buildings, and he got kicked out of Michigan for it. So who the hell knows? But his uncle was a congressman. I think it was Joseph Farnsworth who helped get him back in the Army. And you know what? He ends up joining the 8th Illinois Cavalry, who was the ones who did the first shot with Marcellus Jones on Knoxville and Ridge. But he ends up getting promoted up and up and up. Mm. But he's he's only in his mid-20s, impetuous, angry fella.
Yeah.
But he's a fun study. But if you go to Gettysburg and go check out Farnsworth Hill, which is not far from Bushman Hill, and you can walk that whole area, and it's pretty cool. It actually is
cool. So we got some comments in here. So Frank is on here. He's headed to Australia tonight. So that's
Australia.
Cool. Yeah, he's going to Melbourne. But he said that it's 159 years ago this weekend that the CSS Shenandoah set sail from Melbourne, Australia. And then MJ mentioned that today is the 160th anniversary of the Hunley sinking, which we've done a post about that on our social media. And
we certainly did.
We also did an episode about it a couple weeks ago. And then Jared mentions that he's headed to Arizona for 2 weeks. He's looking forward to stopping. I'm going to butcher this. The Battle of Picacho Pass.
Everyone's traveling, going to warm places. Just so you know, Arizona. I had a friend who went to Arizona last week, and because she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, all she brought was t-shirts and shorts because it's Arizona, and it was 40 degrees while she was there. So dress warm just to be safe. But yeah, the Hunleys are if anybody's been to Charleston, South Carolina, you got to go visit the Hunley. You just have to, because it's such a great story, and you see a lot of if you speaking of Facebook, because somebody was talking about Facebook, you see a lot of CSS Hunley, and that's like nails on the chalkboard if you study the Hunley, because it wasn't the CSS, it was a privateership, but between everything that went on with them, H.L. Hunley and James McClintock and Baxter Watson. They put this whole thing together to go get money. And it's a great study. If you go to Charleston, they take the Hunley. It's their pride and jewel. They're very proud of the Hunley, and it's a great story. And they didn't find it till 1995 and raise it till 2000.
Yeah.
No, but it's a great study. And if you go there, there's a lot of places you can go, and people, if you're going to Charleston, go sit at a bar and find someone who likes history and just get them from local and get them talking about the Hunley and get them talking about Sherman, and you'll have great conversations. And you're not going to mention Sherman. It's not going to be an issue, but they talk about some of the stories of why they didn't burn Charleston. But
wasn't it Pigman who?
Schimmelpfennig, he took that later.
Pigman, it's so bad.
But for real though, it's a great place to go. And there are so many cool little places and nooks in Charleston you can go to. And I had a relative who lived down at Mount Pleasant, and he would show me. He was a history guy, so he showed me a lot of the stuff. One of the cool things about Charleston is it has a city ordinance that still exists today, that the tallest building in town has to be a church. And what's good about that is there are no skyscrapers. It looks like an old timey photograph of one of the big cities in the Northeast. But there's a place you can go to that you can still visit today. It's called Philadelphia Alley, and it's the only place in town that you can be in and not see a church. It's covered by buildings, and that's where the hookers hung out. It's probably where Paul and Cushman hung out. Okay,
you're gonna get RKO.
but that's where all the duels took place. That's like the red light district was in Philadelphia Alley, and it's still there, and you can visit it. And it's the only place because they felt that if the church couldn't see you, God didn't see what you were doing, so you were good. And so it's a cool little place, and you can go. There's bars there, but it's a fun history. But you can definitely go to some of the cool little places in Charleston, and obviously definitely go to the breweries that are really Holy Grail Brewery is just about as good as
that's where LC brought you some stuff from
he brought me a tap, and I appreciate that we have it on our mantle there.
Yeah. So Richard says that he's going to be arriving in Charleston a week from today, and he already has his tickets to go see the Hunley. And then Elsie, I think we talked about this in our episode. Elsie said, I heard one study say the sailors of the Hunley likely died instantly from the explosion, concussion. Thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Yes, that's probably what they died from.
That's the likely. There was a woman, a PhD from Duke University, who wrote
I'll get the name of the book.
Right, who wrote a study about it, and the fact that the bodies were found in their positions and not in any sort of distress, like they were drowning, trying to escape. When they found their bodies and when they dug the bodies out of that silt in 2000, they were skeletons, but they were frozen in time. Rachel. And so the reality was people don't realize concussion can kill you just like a shell can. It rips right through your body.
Yeah.
A lot of people think the sharpshooter at Gettysburg was killed by concussion and they moved his body, but that's one of the theories. But Rachel Lance wrote a book about it, and I think she did a YouTube presentation about it. You can go on and look. It's very fast. It's very sciencey.
She wrote a paper about it before she published the book, and the paper was very, very sciencey, like a lot of different math equations, which I was like, I just want to read what you thought about it, Rachel. But I appreciate all she did for it. Like they had to do all these experiments to determine if that's what they died from. But I just put the book in the chat. Is called In the Waves by Rachel Lance. And that's I think it's the most recent book about the Hunley, but it talks about how they probably died from concussion.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies about that, but I think considering the shape of the bodies they found, I think that's the most likely scenario was they were killed by like a trauma from the blast.
Yeah.
And they just died instantly. And that debunks a lot of cool stories about whether they rose and waved that lamp and they did all that stuff. And because that's a tradition. That would have been today, by the way, in Charleston. They would have had the reenactment today for that. And it's just nice. It's just a fun place to go. But outside of the history, Charleston, you go down to King Street and Queen Street, and you go empty some bottles down there. You're gonna have a good time. So enjoy that.
I need to get back there.
We were supposed to go down there. We talked about going down there recently, but it's never happened. I don't think we have to get down there though.
Jaron mentions that Lusty 160 is this weekend. It looks like the reenactors are getting really wet because it's so rainy down there. But yeah, Lusty, we did an episode about that. Oh God, a year and a half ago, about the Battle of Lusty, which is really, really interesting battle as well. And yeah, they do kind of a rare thing. They do the reenactment right on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best reenactments anywhere in the country. But you can go down to Lusty, and there's places you can go in Florida. There's still, there is some Civil War in North Florida, but Lusty, 54th Massachusetts, people think about Battery Wagner, but you don't think about what the 54th did at Lusty.
Yeah,
they were the ones who had to kind of hold the line. They were the Charles Tilden 16th Maine of the Battle of Lusty. So, but no, it's if you're going down there, check it out. But there's absolutely one of the top, the best reenactments that takes place is at Lusty. And they're very proud of it too. That they honor that. They make sure they do a good job with it.
Yeah.
RKO weeks. What the hell are they going to RKO for?
Because of what you said about Pauline Cushman hanging out in that one alley and
oh, that's right.
Charleston. I said you would get an RKO.
Oh yeah. All right. I probably deserve that though. Well, she was a woman of many talents.
Oh God. But yeah, I really like the question that Elsie. Well, it wasn't really a question. He just said one of his top 5 moments was at the battle, would be Moritz Tavern. I'd have to say one of mine, besides Moritz Tavern, would be that conversation that Hood had at Spring Hill the morning after. when he was playing blame game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing too. This. Oh God, we could do a whole thing
What
on
our top five,
fly in the
top five the
wall.
wall.
I mean, certainly that one. I'd love to be where when Meade rode out to meet with old Danny Boy at Sickles by the Trossel barn, ask him what the. I'd love to be at that meet. That'd be a good one too. I'd like to be made. Then this is just Gettysburg. You could talk about the War Council meeting.
Yeah, I'm talking about like the whole war. Like mine would be, like I said, Spring Hill with the blame game with Hood and those guys, just before the Battle of Franklin, right before the Battle of Franklin with Pat Claiborne. Probably more in the Western Theater too. Pickett's Mill, when they had the realization how shitty it was going to be.
Oh, you could be at the bridges at Chickamauga. That'd be cool. With the Wilder, you could do that. This. I mean, that's what's cool about it, is you study these things, and historians and even people who just study this stuff, which I guess I consider historians, but if you study this stuff and you read it, a lot of the books are always filled in with details of the author's opinion, both good and bad, based on the history. But that's what's good about it, is there's so much, but there's also so much missing that you have to fill in the gaps. And most authors do a good job filling in the gaps, but it's their own opinion. But that's what's neat about it, though, is you can really sit back and enjoy that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I just think there's so many fly in the wall moments that aren't necessarily battles, but more conversations, like at Moritz Tavern, at Spring Hill. As they're planning this stuff. Moments at Shiloh when Beauregard, when one of his staff members basically said, "We're like a lump of sugar right now. We're not dissolved, but we are damp with water, which means we're going to dissolve." And Beauregard was like, "Yeah, we need to get the F out of here."
I'd like to be at the moment when Beauregard finds out that Don Carlos Buell's showing up, all those the Army of the Ohio.
Yeah.
He thinks he already sent his email to saying that we won the Battle of Shiloh. He's probably trying to find that recall thing, which I can never do in my work email. But when he found that out, it's about a pucker effect moment, right there. But I mean, that's what's good about it. It's fun to be able to look back 160 plus years and study the details of the stuff, because you can have a lot of fun with it. But always keep an open mind. Because I mean, I see my opinions changing on things all the friggin' time.
Same.
But that's just because you study so much about it. You can't help yourself. But there are the staples, there are the standards. But
Bill mentions Lee and Jackson at Chancellorsville.
I like to be at that little meeting they had at the final camp meeting. And if you've been at Chancellorsville, which everyone should go to Chancellorsville, is you take that right, and the camp's right there, and they have a little monument, but you can read and just imagine sitting there that last night before Jackson does his sojourn to go beat up your boy Howard.
Yeah.
But the site is marked really, really well. I loved Chancellorsville. Chancellorsville is such a cool place to go. That whole area, Chancellorsville, Spotsy, Wilderness. You can see there's so much, and it's so well preserved in a lot of cases. You end up going over to to Hazel Grove or Fairview. Hazel Grove is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Although that's the place without a doubt, I got the most ticks on me ever.
See, I didn't get any when we were there.
Oh my God.
Indy Coleman mentions, how about watching Burnside's face when he learns how the Battle of the Crater worked out?
Yeah, well, that whole thing. I mean, Burnside, it's so funny because Burnside, that whole battle, I mean, the whole plan was really, really good until it was go time.
Yeah.
Right. And then he just fell on his face, having guys like Ledley lead it. I mean, because if you look at the lead up to the crater, which was a really shitty thing. If you look at the details about it with a lot of the stuff with the USCT guys, but the lead up to it, the dig in the tunnels, Pennsylvania guys not far from Pottsville, right?
Yeah.
Where the great Yingling is made, Mary. Those miners dug that tunnel. They put vents in there. They did it really, really well. You can still see portions of it today.
Yeah.
But right when it's time to go, Burnside falls on his face, and that's too bad for him, because he's a New Englander, Mary. He's buried in Rhode Island, so maybe that's.
Don't think he was quite cut out to lead a whole army, though. I think he was kind of like, someone like John Bell Hood as well was not quite cut out to lead an army, as we all saw.
Yeah, no, it's just cool though, because he's somebody who he was, I don't want to say right guy at the right time at Antietam, but he you attack the bridge, you push back, AP Hill shows up and screws up the whole thing for the Union. Lee escapes, and the rest goes on and on and on. But he had his moments. Burnside did.
Yep.
He beat the hell out of Longstreet at Knoxville.
Yeah. Well, all these guys, the ones that we consider, like I'm not a huge fan of Hood. I like him, respect him for being a soldier, army guy. But even he had good moments in the Civil War as well. Like these guys aren't all bad, and they're also they're not all good either. They're humans, right? Which is interesting. But yeah, like,
Children's a superhero. He's on him.
God. Oh, Tammy said she's going to Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, the Wilderness, and Spotsylvania in May, taking 3 days. She's wondering if that's enough time.
No, it's not.
Like you're like, no.
No, well, it depends. I mean, if you've never been before and you want to get a Reader's Digest version, the sad part is you can do Freddie in 1 day, okay? Because it's a lot of it's built over. But make sure you don't just go to Marie's Heights. Make sure you go to Slaughter Pen Farm, because that's the preserve place. You want to go there. You want to go to Chatham Manor across the street. You want to do that. You can probably do all of that in maybe 6 hours. But as you go, that Orange Plank Road heading down towards Chancellorsville, you can spend a whole day itself at Chancellorsville. Spotsylvania is nearby. You got to do that. Wilderness is part of Chancellorsville, so you can do that. But you want to go to places. You can go to the Guinea Farm. You can go where Jackson died. Yeah. You certainly want to go to Elwood, where Stonewall Jackson's arm is buried. 1789 Brewery. You guys.
1789 Brewery.
Right, but you can put it this way: if you go for 3 days, you're going to want to go back as you should.
Yeah.
The Chancellorsville Wilderness
I want to get back
area
to Chancellorsville.
Is so vast and so big. That you're going to want to go back, but you can see quite a bit of it. But I would do the 3 days, but you're going to want to go back. But don't miss Chatham Manor, don't miss Slaughter Pen Farm. Make sure you hit all the spots along the way. On Orange Plank towards the Chancellorsville. Don't skimp on the Wilderness stuff, because it's all mixed up on certain. But you'll see U.S. Grant monuments right there with Hooker stuff, and people get confused by that, because there's two battlefields kind of in one. Wilderness is a great creepy place to visit because it's spooky. But give yourself, you definitely go to Elwood. You want to walk down that long path, and you want to see where Stonewall Jackson's arm is buried. And when you're walking down that long road, and the Elwood Manor is right in front of you, on the right hand side there's a tree lot. You'll see it. In that tree lot, there's a whole bunch of Confederate bodies still buried.
Oh.
That are still there, and that's not marked. But the curator of Elwood told me when I was there one time that's where they were. She walked us out there and showed us, so you can take a peek at that. But definitely spend as much time as you can. But that's a great area. That's a fun area to go. And there's a great Confederate cemetery right off Spotsylvania that you have to go to. But Spotsylvania.
That's an amazing place. My favorite is, like, I love going to Chancellorsville. Jaron mentions he's going to be at Wilderness for the 160th, and Frank is also trying to do Wilderness in Spotsylvania in May, and he's hoping to be there for the Bloody Angle, the 160th. Lynn says Chatham Manor is worth seeing. But yeah, I definitely want to get back to Wilderness and Chancellorsville and Spotsylvania.
We should probably do at some point. We're going to be down there for Memorial Day week, right? We should probably take a day and head over to Chancey and Freddie. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do something like that. You have to spend the night down there. It's a little too far from Pennsylvania to go down there for just a day, but there's a lot of places to go. But definitely, if you do all that, you're gonna have to rush around, and you have to be with someone who knows where to take you. Bang, 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 bang. It's going to be, but go and take it all in. It's going to give you a thirst for knowledge. It's going to give you a little taste of what it is. It's like going to Gettysburg for 1 day. You see a lot of the stuff, but you're going to have to rush through it, or Antietam for maybe 1 day or half a day. But you're talking about a bunch of major battles all in that same area. Not far from Fredericksburg, if you head, is where John Wilkes Booth was killed. Garrett Farm. That whole Booth stuff is not far from there. So you can make a whole week and see all that stuff in the area.
Yeah.
You can go to the AP Hill gas station, Mary, right off Camp
yes,
AP
that
Hill.
was so funny. The AP Hill gas
Uh,
station.
you know,
Indy mentions
you get gas and a rash all in the same place.
Indy mentions that they feel that 3 days would make you feel rushed and checking your watch quite a bit. A fourth day would make a big difference. I felt that way when we were there. The weather was against us though. So we didn't have we didn't have as much time, and I wanted more time there. So I want to go back. The thing that I'm so glad I did at Chancellorsville, which gave me an even better understanding of what happened with the 11th Corps, was I went to where Jackson's men came out. And I've been of the opinion for quite a while that I don't care who you are in the Army of the Potomac, including John Reynolds, you were getting routed by Jackson at that point. And what really confirmed it for me was going to the spot where Jackson's guys came out, and I realized I'm like, there's no way like anybody was anybody would have been routed. I don't care who you are.
No, and that's the thing too, is you can make that walk from the campsite down that dirt road, and it's still a dirt road, and to get an idea, when Jackson was attacking, the line was so long, there was still troops waiting to leave from the camp. That's how long this line was.
Yeah.
And it's all, and you could certainly walk it because God knows they did, but I mean, it's easier to drive it. But you go by the furnace, you go by all these sites. And when you come out right to the point through those woods where the Union right was, the 11th Corps, yeah, to your point, try to tell me Patton would have been routed there. There's too many men. You have to give up Barlow's division. He gets taken away to go with Sickles. So now you're down in division. So he was short with men anyway. So nothing against your boy Howard, but
I mean, he should have been listening to von Gilsa.
No, but he's also getting conflicting orders that Jackson's retreating, and this is part of a retreat. But yeah, I mean, this was. Well, I'm not going to make excuses for your boy Howard, but at the end of the day, when they hit, there was no one stopping. Jackson was a freight train at that point. It was my opinion, without a doubt, is Jackson's greatest moment.
Absolutely, it absolutely is.
And outside of Lee's retreat from Gettysburg, it's Lee's greatest moment too.
Yeah. Frank is wondering, what is the AP Hill gas station?
Oh, so there's a military base there, Frank, called Camp AP Hill. It's right in that area. And if you're driving down, I forget the name of I think it's I-30. I forget the name of the highway, to be honest, but you're driving on this road and there's like a mobile station. It says AP Hill Mobile Station. And it's for the base, but you go right by, and it just says AP. It's just, that's all it is. Nothing. There's no story behind it except just the sign. It was just funny. We should post that sign. We took a picture of it. But yeah, but it's pretty good,
James mentions he had a retired guide with him, and he did Spotsylvania and Wilderness one day and Chancellorsville another. Well worth it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If you, like I said a few minutes ago, if you're with someone who knows where they're going and you can hit the spots quick, then you can probably do it. But you are gonna feel rushed. The best thing I would say, if you go in there for 3 days, just go there and see as much as you can, but appreciate what you're seeing. So go to Hazel Grove and go up where the guns are and look out at the vista, and you can see where the Chancellor House was, where Joe Hooker was knocked loose,
and where we left a pinwheel.
We left a pit, right? But you can sit there, and because the vista is beautiful. I mean, it's very well preserved. The whole battlefield. Just don't rush yourself, so you miss the forest or the trees here. Take a moment when you get to when you go to Hazel Grove specifically. Fairview is tough to get to in the May because of all the bugs and all that stuff. But go to Hazel Grove, follow the road, go visit where Stonewall was shot. Go to the visitor center. And just make the path and enjoy it, but just don't miss Spotsylvania, and don't miss Elwood, because those are some really cool places. And I guarantee you're going to want to go back, and you're going to want to, the areas that you like or you missed, you're going to want to spend more time at.
Yeah,
like Wilderness is the redheaded stepchild. Because it's a shit out of the stick. People don't spend a lot of time there, but when you go back a second time, you will, and you'll appreciate a lot. You'll see where Longstreet was shot. You'll see a lot of the areas that people don't go to because they go to see Chancellorsville. They blow right through it. But the Wilderness is, you walk in those woods with those soldiers burned, it is one of the creepiest places you will go.
Yeah, it's so creepy there. Yeah, Tammy says she's going to be self-guiding. Frank, I thought it was one of the bang barn spots of people.
Oh, probably it might have been. Who the hell knows? Who might have? But there's a lot of, but that area. I mean, I envy people like Ski who live in that area because they can go there every day if they wanted to. But but I know he's got life and job and family and responsibilities. But you can see there's so much in that area to go to. But just go and just definitely go and see what you can see and enjoy it. But definitely take your time with certain places because you're going to want to. It's such a pretty area.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Elsie was wondering, are the 12th Corps breastworks still at Chansey?
Yeah, but it's not like it is. It's not good. It's not like the breastworks at Slaughter Pen Farm out where at Fredericksburg are. You can still see where they are. Chancellorsville, a lot of it's tough to see in the summertime.
Yeah.
If you were to go there now, you'll be able to see more breastworks of places like the 12th and see places like that. But a lot of the stuff gets built over. It gets very, very built over with foliage in the summertime and with bugs and snakes and all the stuff that's in there.
Yep.
There might even be a Hazel Grove clown, Mary.
I see a meme in the future now.
I mean, there might be. Hazel Grove clown. But definitely do it,
Water Killer is on here. He's they're from Germany, and he says they're jealous that they can travel to all these battlefields. Like we can travel to all these battlefields so easily.
It's definitely a passion, although there's some good battlefields on different wars out in Germany you go visit too, right? Germany, France, that area.
We've been watching
Belgium.
A few World War II. We've been watching Masters of the Air. We watched a movie the other night about it was like a side story of Battle of the Bulge, which was it turned out to be really good. Company of Heroes.
Yeah, my grandfather fought at Battle of the Bulge.
I mean, admittedly, I should be more into World War II than what I am, considering I had two grandfathers and a great uncle that fought in it. So, but I listen to their stories, but and I would like to get over there someday to see the battlefields.
Yeah, that Germany's a place that is, speaking of bucket lists, I mean, that's a place that I'd like to go.
I'd love to go to Germany someday.
Go see all that, but it's a cool area out there too. So we're equally jealous. We'll trade you. Yep. Jealous moments right there. But Master, you mentioned Matt, it's pretty good. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just I have a tough time getting into the world. Honestly, Civil War is my thing, but that's
oh yeah, same. Tammy says, "Don't joke about the clowns."
I'm not joking about the clowns, Tammy. I am not joking about the clowns. You got to watch out for the clowns. The Rosewoods clown is a real thing.
Well, that thing the one thing too that I've noticed, like on Facebook, is there's been more people talking about how creepy. Where the Texas where we walked, how creepy that area is.
Yeah. So if you. Here we go about Gettysburg again, Mary. Here we go, right? But if you
bring it back to something else.
Okay, if you park, the wheat field or where the 17th Main, any of those places, and you walk through that path, the site of the old trolley, and you walk and you go see Henry Fuller's monuments and you wave hi to him, and you keep walking by, and you get to Brook Avenue, and you take the right or the left, that area where the triangular field meets the Rosewoods is the creepiest friggin' area. As far as Gettysburg, that where the 6th Corps was, Mass Avenue up there, right? Where the Sedgwick statue is, but especially that Rosewoods area. I mean, I'm not talking about ghosts and goblins and all that stuff, but you feel this overwhelming feeling of dread and seclusion out there. If anybody's been out there, it's just definitely do it, but it's a creepy place. And if you walk like we did, the path of the 1st Texas, and you walk down that triangular field, that horrible walk with the woods and the rocks, you can really feel the plight of the men walking down of Robertson's first brigade. That's a thing right there.
And there's places like that you can. Had the weather been better at Chickamauga, we probably would have done more of that.
Oh yeah.
But because it was raining, it was flooded. MJ says she hasn't been out there. Oh, we can take you out there. It's creepy.
Yeah, we can even go there next weekend, Mary.
Yeah.
We're gonna say we can take MJ out there. Yeah. Walk a little bit, MJ. So fair warning. Bring your leave your dancing shoes at home, bring your walking shoes.
Dancing shoes at home.
We'll go into the mine Saturday night. So
she'll need the dancing shoes.
I know she'll have her dancing shoes that night. As she's singing "It's Raining Men" on the bar like she usually does, but we'll have a good time with MJ.
You again.
But no, we'll definitely. I love going out there. It's a great area to go. If you're gonna go to Gettysburg, you gotta go see the Fuller Monument, which is hard to find in the summertime. So it's great to see it this time of year. but walking the path to go down a brook and you walk over the rosewoods where the split rock is, where the bodies are buried.
Elsie says Brook Avenue is amazing.
It's such a, I don't know. Every place has an energy, positive or negative, right? My old house had a very negative energy, right? Gettysburg, for the most part, is a positive energy. But Brook Avenue, there's something about it where you just feel the overwhelming, you can feel the overwhelming feeling of dread of G.T. Anderson's men coming across, bumping into those Michigan men, those Maine men, right there at that stone wall that pushes back, and where Fuller gets killed, and all that stuff that happens is right there, and it's very infrequently visited part of the battlefield.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of battlefields that have like for instance, like I took you out to Bragg's headquarters to make sure I wasn't nuts about the negative energy, and you felt it too out there at Chickamauga.
I always do. I
as soon as we got out there, it was like, this is a very, and who knows if it's because it's Braxton Bragg and what happened there. Yeah, I think that's where he found out that Polk didn't do his attack, and D.H. Hill shockingly was not where he needed to be. Instead, he was making bacon and eggs with Patrick Clayburne and eating Lucky Charms, apparently.
That's factual. It's proven.
That's what we
but
pictured that they got the box of Lucky Charms, and Bragg's messenger shows up and says, "You're supposed to be attacking, right?" And D.H. Hill is like, "Really?"
No, but we'll definitely get out there. We'll definitely go out there. Maybe then we'll have to pick a time. We'll get out there and go.
Yeah.
I could be totally up for shenanigans going through Rosewoods again. Just keep it. Just MJ, if we go, beware of the clown. The scary place out there.
Now you have to create the Hazel. You're going to create like a clown at every battlefield.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
The clown of Bragg's headquarters.
It's troubling as but the mine will definitely happen.
Yeah, David just says like, "Oh, the mine."
The mine's great. We went there last time. There was some quality stuff. There's a lot of good places to go when you go to some of these battlefields. It's really cool. But I mean, because you have to be. Everybody loves the history, but you want to go to some of the places you kind of enjoy life a little bit. You know we should do, since we're just talking, just you and I here. We should go to that place I mentioned earlier. Go to that Farnsworth Hill.
Yeah.
Right. Where Judson Kilpatrick and those guys launched their attack from. Goes to the 5th New York Cavalry Monument. You know who their commander was? Was Major John Hammond, the guy from Jurassic Park. I think it's the same guy.
Yes, that's probably
Right. But no, we can go up there and see all that stuff too. Because this is the time of year when you can visit certain parts of these battlefields without having to worry about the sticky things in the bushes and the ticks and the snakes.
You still have to worry about the sticky things. My gloves are still like a few of those on there. Tammy mentioned she's going back to Andersonville in March, by the way.
Oh, good luck. Speaking of negative energy on that one, but that's the thing is these places have feelings to it. And there's places I've been to, where I don't really get a feeling from that much as Antietam. I love Antietam, but I don't have that like that connection. But Andersonville, I mean, it's so funny because Andersonville is a place you really have to want to get to because it's way the hell out there. But any
New York Cavalry spared no expense.
Exactly. Yeah, that big staff with the glass thing on. It was John Hammond who ran that 5th New York.
Yeah, it was 5th New York Cavalry can spare no expense.
He's captain. Life finds a way.
Yeah. Jeez. The Jurassic Park stuff.
Yeah, I never know.
The volunteer bots.
Oh yeah. But seriously though, but there are places you can go that have a feeling. Andersonville's great like that. There's a lot of cool places like that too. And when you start to really become really a capital N nerd when it comes to the Civil War stuff, you start visiting the prisons. You really notice some of the feelings of it. And Andersonville, Belle Isle, places like that are really well preserved.
Yeah.
Our friend Doug Oakes is doing a good job at Elmira, trying to keep that going.
He and his wife are doing a great job.
Right. But unfortunately, a lot of the places like Camp Douglas, which is at the campus of the University of Chicago right now, you can't really see a hell of a lot of that. Obviously, Fort Warren over here in Boston Harbor is a great visit. But you can feel in some of these places, you can just, whatever the hell energy is still there. And we're not talking paranormal shit. We're just talking about the feeling that when you're in certain places where certain historical things happen, because you know what happened there, you can sort of feel the psychological connection to it with how the people felt when they were there, right? But sometimes places like the Wilderness, you don't even need to know the history, and you can feel the dread of that place.
Oh yeah, Wilderness is creepy. Jared mentions Johnson's Island is spooky and cool too. And I agree. Every time I've been there, and it's like it's weird. So you drive like you got to pay like I don't know, it's like $2 to drive over because it's privately owned.
Yeah.
And you start driving, and as soon as you hit land, the island, you start to feel kind of creepy. But where it really gets creepy, you literally cross like into the graveyard, and there's a fence all around it. Once you cross on the
Yeah.
other side of that fence, you really feel it. It's just this like heavy feeling. And then you walk to the back, and there's an arch and a monument that was put there by
Yeah.
the EDC a few years ago. But you walk through that arch to kind of where Lake Erie is and Sandusky Bay, and the feeling kind of lifts a little bit, but not completely. It's still creepy. And then you walk back into the cemetery, and this heavy feeling comes back again. It's a sad place. I mean,
Yeah, I
Johnson's
mean,
Island was not a nice spot.
no, you can feel it, with Antietam, for example. I mean, I've walked the whole thing, and I love Antietam, and you definitely feel it. But I guess it doesn't draw me like the other battlefields, like some of them do. But there's a lot of cool places. I mean, we were in Richmond.
Yeah, Bill just asked, like he said he tried to find Libby prison location last time in Richmond. We found it.
It's just a parking lot now, and that's too bad because you can park and walk over there. It's just in this warehouse district right along the river there, and there's a monument for it. But you can you can envision where the building was, but the building is long gone. But if you walk the bridge across to Belle Isle, you can still see the feel what Belle Isle was. Obviously, Andersonville is very well preserved. Elmira is getting there. It's just trying to do a good job.
Yeah, they're doing a great job with it. Tammy was wondering, is there anything left of the prison in Louisville?
I don't know. That I don't know.
Is that the one in Kentucky? Is that Kentucky?
That's Louisville's Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've also been to the Florence Stockade, and that is just basically the woods just overgrew it. The site is still there. It's just a big woods, and you can see, and they have a little marker in the middle where you can go that kind of says this is where like the guardhouse was and places like that. And you can walk the paths around, walk the perimeter, but it's really overgrown. The most preserved, best one by far is Andersonville. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, it just is. And if you go to Andersonville, definitely go to the town of Andersonville because that's creepy. That sets up where the Wurz monument is. You can see all that. It's right next to it.
There was people outside. There was like 2 people outside when we were there, and when we pulled up and parked the car, they went inside. It was so weird, and it was like
it's like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah. Frank says, for me, there's a heaviness at the McGavock Cemetery in Franklin. I feel the spirits of the soldiers are positive because their graves are taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But I mean, if you go, I mean, I enjoy Fort Warren here. It's a great day. If you're in the city of Boston, you can take the boat over and have a couple of beers in the boat, and you can spend the afternoon in Fort Warren. You can see where Stevens was held. You can see where Granbury was held, and you can see a lot of things like that. And it's very, very well preserved too, and they got a good history to it. But definitely go, check these places out because battlefields are not just the battlefields per se. There's the medical places like Camp Letterman, which no one goes to in Gettysburg, by the way. Shame on you if you've been in Gettysburg as more times than you probably should have and not gone to Camp Letterman.
Yeah, that is a cool visit.
Because
Elsie,
sorry.
Elsie
I was going to say it's a great place, yeah.
If we've been to Fort Delaware Prisoner Point Lookout Prison.
I have not.
Neither have I.
Nope, I've not been to that one, but it's definitely a place to go in the area. But certainly you want to go to some of these places because you can really get an idea. And some of the places are better than others. I mean, Fort Warren here was a white collar prison.
Oh yeah,
it really was.
I think the worst thing, like there was nothing like Granbury's letters where he wrote to some guy that was, hadn't been captured, and he was like, yeah, so Sundays we stay inside, but rest of the time we get outside for a few hours each day and we play, like he said, they played baseball, they played football. He mentions playing football, but they played sports. They got newspapers to read, all that stuff. They were treated very well. But that's also because the commandant there, so the guy that was leading it, so basically the equivalent to Henry Wurz, like his position was very lax. I shouldn't say lax. He was just very.
It was an officer prison. I mean, when Granbury got popped at Fort Donelson, when he got captured,
like 162 years ago.
He was shipping up to Boston with the officers. His men went to Johnson's Island, in Sandusky, Ohio. Ohio was the worst hell on earth, Mary. So that's you can only imagine a cruel, unusual punishment. Although Sandusky was the site of Tommy Boy, which you still have not seen yet.
We gotta have to watch Sandusky many times.
We should watch that movie sometime soon.
Yeah.
Tommy Boy is a great movie, but for real though, it's definitely worth to visit on a lot of these places if you can go. But so someone mentioned going to Charleston earlier. You can do tours of Charleston. And see a lot of the creepy places. You want to go to the Pirate Museum, for example. You want to go to places like that. But it's neat though, because when you're going in for a full Civil War nerdgasm trip, there's this stuff not only about the battle you're at, but the surrounding area. You go to Hunterstown to Gettysburg. You go see where Jeb Stuart fought Kilpatrick the second time in the Gettysburg campaign. Right. But no one ever goes to see those. But we did that one time. We drove out there.
Yep. And
I remember he was sick that day in your car.
Do you know what the other 160th is today?
Which
Columbia.
One? Yeah. We're coming into the 160th season. So 1864 is a huge year, So Overland campaign, there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on. We're gonna have to definitely go out of our way to hit some of these Virginia sites this year, this summer, because we got. I know. I got the baseball stuff. I got a lot of.
There's also in the Western Theater though. There's Franklin. There's the Atlanta campaign. All those battles like Pickett's Mill and Kennesaw had the 160th. No, they don't. They had that in 63. I'm wrong about that. Never mind. No, 64. They did Atlanta campaign 64.
64 is
actually no. It's not 160th Columbia. It's the 159th because Columbia was 1865.
Right. That was after the New Year. You're right.
I correct myself. 159th of the anniversary of Columbia.
Yeah, no, definitely. But no, but there's definitely places to go with this. But yeah, but you can, since we're talking about Reynolds with Gettysburg, and you want to talk about Lancaster, you can see a lot because not only is John Reynolds, but Thaddeus Stevens is buried out there. Yeah. You can go see his grave. You can go to the Wrightsville Bridge. You can go see where that was burned with we mentioned a little while ago. There's so many cool places. You can still see the footings, by the way. If you go to where the Wrightsville Bridge was burned, then there's a new bridge now. But if you look next to it, you can still see the footings from the old bridge that got burned. It's still there. It's just rising above the water, and most people who see it probably don't appreciate the history, but that's a cool place to go. It's a good brewery. We went out there. No, we didn't go. We didn't go out there
because we were too early to go to the brewery.
We went to we went to Hanover.
Hanover,
but when we drove from Lancaster to Gettysburg, we would have gone across the new Wrightsville Bridge. So I think I probably pointed out to you, but you probably weren't listening. Realistically, you're probably too busy listening to Justin Bieber on the radio like you do.
I hate Justin Bieber.
But we drove over the new bridge. But you can still see the footing. It's like when you're going through Harrisburg, crossing towards Dillsburg, you can see the old footings from the old bridges. Yeah. It looks like that. But that's the bridge that they tried to blow up to deny Gordon from getting to Lancaster. So they ended up burning it. That's a cool story too. That's cool reading that part of the history of that campaign as well.
But 159th of Columbia today, which is when the Union Army enters the city of Columbia, which was a big thing. Because Wade Hampton's guys set fire to stuff and they left, and there was only like 500 of them. And then Sherman's got his whole march to the sea, and then his guys got drunk and they caused a lot of damage as well. And I mean, Howard has a very balanced account of Columbia. Howard writes about in his memoirs, and he says he's like, yeah, we were as much to blame as the Confederates. I think that's why Sherman eventually came out and said, I kind of put more of the blame on Wade Hampton, but it was our guys too. Howard said, the Union guys were getting drunk and burning shit and causing a ruckus. But then he said there was Union guys that were trying to help the families that were losing their homes from the fires and all that. And it was the place where Sherman was really worried about, because they're in the place where it happened, right? And he didn't know if he could control his men. So he puts Howard in charge of Columbia, because he's kind of the adult in the room. And this is why it's a good thing Blackjack Logan was not in charge of that wing on the March to the Sea and in charge of an army. And he left when they left Columbia. They weren't there for too long. When he left Columbia, Howard left them with, I think it was so many head of cattle and some guns too, so they could defend themselves, because his attitude was, we're winning this war. and we have to be like, we have to make friends with these people. We can't just be like, see you later, and leave them with nothing. So Howard made sure they were able to defend themselves and they had food as well.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of humanitarian stories that took place with this. That's good. Even in the worst times, not just the Richard Kirkland stories, but some of the other ones of some of the charity that was taking place with some of these.
Yeah, there's talks of how like Union soldiers were helping families get stuff out of their houses in Columbia that were burning, and just kind of standing around and protecting these families from the Union soldiers that were drunk. And like Howard's attitude basically was boys will be boys kind of thing.
Well, that's part of the whole perception thing, because you're looking specifically at it's stories about how this guy burned this, he was an animal, he did that. And so when you look at the fact that Wade Hampton really burned most of Columbia.
Yeah.
I mean, Hood would have done a lot of Atlanta.
Yep.
So, but again, it's more perception than reality. But when we talked about this a little bit last night, Mary, was the people in the South who were ripping Sherman for destroying Georgia. I wonder how they would have felt about the American bombers bombing Berlin. Right?
When they said
the civilian neighborhoods,
civilians in church.
Yeah, I mean, so again, it's war is hell. I'm gonna coin that phrase.
That's what. Well, my great uncle was. He was on a bomber in the Canadian Air Force in World War II, and he said, like, yeah, they knew full well what they were going dropping bombs on civilians, and he said they had to end the war. Like, it's a terrible thing. I don't know how. Like, I couldn't imagine carrying that around with me. He talked to my dad about it a lot, and he wrote a book about it. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like no, Sherman's not dropping bombs on people, obviously, but like when he got into the Carolinas, he realized, like, MJ said they forget about the burning of Chambersburg. Yeah, they conveniently don't mention the burning of Chambersburg.
Well, when you look, right, but when you look at a John McCausland, right, who is a very underrated bastard as far as that goes, right? Who was a type of guy who just, Beavis and Butthead, just like fire, right? That's who McCausland was. There are a lot of people who are under when you look at the big people, you look at Sheridan, you look at Forrest, you look at Sherman. These are the people who pulled up the town and said, "Here's my bastard guard," and then they burned it because that's who I am, right? But there are a lot of people like that though, and William Suey Smith was another one no one talks about, who real mean fellow, Mary.
He's a real
shot a guy right in front of his entire family when he tried to surrender.
He's a real loose cannon.
He said he was a Mason just like me, and just like Suey rather. So come on out, then I'll bring him out. Let him go. He pulled him out and shot him in front of his family anyway.
I hope Suey was removed from his lodge for that.
So that was during the Meridian campaign. But this is again, it's a hellish period.
Yeah.
This was a very, very difficult, needless to say, time, understatement of the century, but a lot of things went down. But McCausland's a guy doesn't a lot. You don't hear about his name a lot. If you're from Frederick, you're from Chancellorsville, from Chambersburg, you know who John McCausland is. But if you're the average person, but he was someone who was a very difficult spirited guy who had no problem doing whatever was told. But he was a soldier. That's who he was.
Yeah. And David says, yeah, Sheridan. I'm not a fan of Sheridan. Not for what he did at all, but just, I don't know. I don't like Sheridan.
One thing about Sheridan, Mary, we talked about it the other night, is he bought the table of the Appomattox surrender from Lee and Grant, and he gave it to, remember who?
To Libby Custer.
Libby Custer, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell that was all about?
One of her, I don't know.
But yeah, pretty cool. He bought that table. That was a good trivia. We had fun with the trivia. Miranda did a good job with her trivia on Stonewall.
Yeah, Miranda did some Stonewall Jackson questions for us.
Miranda, if you, I don't know if she's still on here now, but if she is, we appreciate that. You did yeoman's work. You did God's work. So we definitely appreciate that. But that was a lot of fun though, and it was fun doing the Gettysburg ones.
So you want to be a battlefield guy?
Yeah, because it was funny to do that, because some of the questions I got, I've not taken the test, but some of those questions are ones from previous exams that I got from previous tests, and but it's hard. I mean, people have a good time with that. So
Yeah.
so we'll see how that goes. People are taking that test this year.
Yeah, that's going to be in December probably. And they're doing some courses during the summer for it.
Yeah.
As well. I think someone shared the post again last night on Facebook. I saw that you can take, courses for kind of in prep for it. I mean, they're not required, obviously, but yeah, the roundtable is a good time. Next time we do the roundtable, it'll just be like our usual roundtable. Maybe we'll try and come up with a bit of a topic for it, so we have something to we can kind of guide the discussion a little bit. I know one time we did books, which was a lot of fun. We did the book enabling roundtable, which was fun.
No, that's been we had someone mentioned it. Maybe I'm losing my freaking mind here. But I could have sworn at some point somebody talked about us doing a round table on just book enabling. Did that really happen, or I just imagining that?
We did that one time. We did it like 3 years.
We actually did it.
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
I'm losing my mind.
It was about 3 years ago we did it. I was still living in Canada at the time. We did, it was really good too, because there were so many books, and we always end up talking about books. I know someone asked like what people were reading. I know someone was reading Scott Hartwig's book about Antietam. And then Scott Bumpus mentioned some stuff about battlefield preservation as well in the books he was reading.
No, but do we do a roundtable specifically for books though?
Yes.
Do we do that? I don't know. You know what? I thought it was a fig. I thought it was a fig Newton of my imagination, man. We actually did that.
Yeah.
All right. I need to take some B12 or something. My memory's going.
Then Frank was the one that suggested it.
Oh, okay.
And I think he suggested it again recently too, to do it again. So maybe it's time to do it again,
Yeah, it's probably been a while. We should probably do that because you mentioned Scott's book, which is not a quick read, by the way, but there's a lot of good ones. We have to announce our book club books. Yep. We got to get down on that. I keep trying to get you on that, and you keep dodging me.
I'm not dodging you. I also have schoolwork. Not dodging it.
But we'll definitely have to do that, because I think it's certainly one of those things to get on, because Ed Lowe's book will be the first one. We're gonna do that, I think, in April. We want to do a Tim Smith's new book on Albert Sidney Johnston.
There was just a review written of that book too, about the Iron Dice of Battle, and someone I need to go back and read the full review of it, but I think one of the comments was that they hope that him doing this study of Albert Sidney Johnston kind of opens the way to do more studies on these Western theater commanders that we don't know much about. And I would agree. I mean, I like learning about Lee and Longstreet and Meade and all that, but like, I want to learn more about I'm still very Western theater. Men like even Zollicoffer, even though he gets cut off very early in the war, but Albert Sidney Johnston, Beauregard, Patrick Clayburn, Hiram Granberry, even Braxton Bragg and Polk. And then you have like McPherson, Blackjack Logan, all these other guys in the Western theater that kind of don't get the same kind of love that they do in the Eastern theater.
No, well, that's the thing. I mean, we've talked about people with Albert Sidney Johnston, and there's two trains of thought with him. Was he going to be somebody, if he lived, that could have been a formidable foe to Grant and Sherman in the West, or would he have been rolled over like Braxton Bragg was, and things like that? And we'll never know. There are people who are very staunch anti-Johnston people.
Yep.
Right. But again, this is a guy who had a great history. He was part of the Utah expedition with old Winnie Boy.
Yep.
With the Mormons didn't want to pay taxes, and now they pay taxes.
You have to pay taxes.
Go get them, right? But he was somebody who had a very short amount of troops over a very long period, a very long area that he had to cover. He did kind of surprise Grant at Pittsburgh Landing.
Yep.
I mean, he got there quicker than he thought.
And that was a lot to do with Beauregard, because Beauregard helped Beauregard, as we call him, helped out a lot with that battle plan for what would become the Battle of Shiloh, a lot more than what is talked about. The thing with Beauregard is and this is one thing Davis hated about him, is Albert Sidney Johnston liked him, and so did Joseph E. Johnston. And Davis hated that, because especially with Joseph E. Johnston treated Beauregard like an equal. and Davis was like, you do know he outranks you, and Johnson was like, yeah, shut up, dude. Who cares? Albert Sidney Johnson, a lot of Shiloh, people don't realize how much Beauregard had in that, but I do agree. Like Albert Sidney Johnson really caught them by surprise.
Well, he did, and you have that great fight there at the Hornet's Nest, and you have again you have issues where you're fighting in piecemeal instead of hitting hard, and then you see that quite a bit in a lot of different places. But at the end of the day, it looked like the Rebs had that battle won, and how that would have changed history, especially Grant's history, because Henry Halleck was itching to get rid of Grant, itching to,
yeah,
and because he wanted to be back out there. And if it wasn't for Don Carlos Buell showing up with his Army of the Ohio right on time, and like we said this before, if it wasn't for those 2 days of rain that slowed down, they would have hit them earlier in April than they actually did. Maybe April 2nd, April 1st, maybe. Yeah. Okay. And Carlos Buell wouldn't have shown up. So they probably would have got him. Because don't forget, Lew Wallace is busy running chasing butterflies northwest,
according to Grant.
Well, right, but there was an opportunity here,
yeah,
as they would say, and they missed it because of weather and because of happenstance.
Yeah,
Grant got lucky. I mean, something to win a battle, just like winning a Super Bowl, you got to get lucky.
Yeah, and I mean Grant, his whole account of Shiloh and Sherman's account of Shiloh is not like it's great we have it, but I mean, they're shifting the blame over to Wallace when really like Grant should have been all over Sherman for the thing with Appler on April the 5th, where Sherman's like, there's no rebels here, they're in Corinth or whatever, in his Katharine Hepburn voice that you do so well. That, and Appler's kind of like does the whole like what did I do wrong kind of thing. And meanwhile, what Appler heard was, I think it was Claiborne's guys. And they were right there. And then of course Sherman's out in the morning not thinking anyone's there. And then like one of his staff gets his head blown off, killed in front of him, and he's like, shit, we're attacked. And that, like, Shiloh is one of these things where you can see them quickly covering up and changing what happened there. But like they caught them off guard. And it was a combination of Albert Sidney Johnson and Beauregard doing it.
Yeah, I mean they had you had a situation where you were doing well, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. But again, that's how history changes. But again, Beauregard, he falls back to Corinth, and he retreats in the face of the enemy. He has those Quaker logs put out, and he's able to escape back. And that's really what doomed him was pulling back out of Corinth, which is really unfair for him, because they always say that pulling out of retreating in the face of the enemy is the hardest thing you can do in battle. He did that he saved his army that day. But again, when you're on Twitter running your mouth, when you're up 28-3 in the game, thinking you're going to win, and you come back and lose in overtime, it's embarrassing. And especially if you retreat a second time. So at that point of the war, you had a situation where you probably had the better generals, you had the better opportunities, and you let it slip away.
Yeah, David Maxwell said Sherman got Savannah'd first day at Shiloh. He absolutely
David loves that Savannah comment.
That was great.
Yeah.
Bang Barn and Savannah. I mean, it has become part of the podcast. We do say, like, we'll just remember, and he got Savannah'd.
It's, what's so funny is sometimes we'll get emails about that. What do you guys mean? What is this Rosewoods clown?
What is the Savannah?
The stupid thing is the Bang Barn.
It's just, we had to explain. We need like an FAQ section for our podcast. It's like, this is what these terms mean. Hi, Roger.
Yeah. Roger. Hope he's driving safely right now. Friggin' Roger.
David said, or up 27-7 against San Francisco.
Oh God, yeah, you did.
You owe him a beer for that, by the way.
I'm getting him a beer for that. Friggin' Lions. But it's okay. It's okay. But it is what it is. Lions will fight again. They'll be back next year. Just gonna get a quarterback. They get a new quarterback off sucks. Sorry, he does.
But yeah, like Shiloh is like one of those battles where it's like you read what is in the memoirs, and it's kind of different from how we see the battle now. But I do think like Albertson, Charles said, Don't forget the DQ.
Do you know how often
I get asked if I worked at the DQ,
if you work at the DQ,
which I never have.
But it is something to do though, question. But no, but it's great though, because it's just the vernacular that comes out of this thing. Because if I mean, if you're gonna do a podcast, you even talk about this stuff that we do, we just do it for fun anyway. But you do it, and you if people pick up on it, if they can learn something based on getting out of that very, Edwin Coddington-esque type of very difficult in your face type of thing. That's all it is. And that's the fun part about it. But we definitely enjoy it, because you know what, though, we get out quite a bit. We meet a lot of people in some of the battlefields. We do try to travel as much as we can with this, because it's just fun. I mean, what else you want? I mean, there is no place I'd rather be than a battlefield, Mary. None. And so being able to do that's pretty fun. There's no question about that. And but you gotta have fun with it though.
Absolutely.
You can't take life too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, we like to have fun with it. 31st Virginia said this is so interesting. I love the Civil War and do many reenactments. You guys are great. Thank you so much. And MJ, we feel the same way about MJ. What she's saying here, Taryn and Mara, the best in their podcast, sheds new light in individuals and events we study, especially the Western theater. Thank you, MJ. We love what you do with Pauline Cushman and with Hancock and all that. You're awesome. Yeah. And with like we were saying earlier, Gettysburg, These Honored Dead, she is one of the admins on, along with Andrea Quinn. And they do tonight, they're going to be doing their trivia, which is always a good time. Always learn something from that trivia. It's awesome. So yeah, make sure you.
Yeah, we have to jump on the trivia. We have to do that. She has some good prizes too.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of prizes, if you were on our trivia last week and you won a prize, I
have all their addresses.
Okay, we have the addresses. I'm bringing David's book to Gettysburg next week. I'm going to mail them out on Tuesday. So I'm not sure if everybody's on here or not, because it's tough to see who the hell's on here and who isn't. But it's fun to do that. And those prizes are courtesy of one of our sponsors. Our primary sponsor actually is Bjorn of Abraham Lincoln Bookshop. He usually jumps on right about now. I was trying to delay this, but I don't know where the hell he is. He's probably in line for Cubs tickets. It's probably where he is right now in Chicago. But it's pretty fun though. It's pretty fun. And but it's traveling these battlefields is fun. Just make sure, Roger, if you have your phone on, just make sure you keep it down. You don't want to get yourself in trouble. We'll have fun with Roger Memorial Day when we come down to Gettysburg. I'm sure that he'll tell his story very, very passionately, like he always does.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole so again, we have the Albert Sidney Johnston book to read, or Johnson book to read, like you were saying. He's one of these ones that could have gone either way with how he would have been in command. I do think I agree with you. He would have given Grant would have shaken things up in the Western theater, I think.
Albert Sidney Johnston was a learned West Pointer who came out of the same stock as the Grants did, as the Howards did, as all of them did. And so to say that Grant evolved into what he was, because people assume Grant was like George Washington on day one with this thing. He wasn't. He
look evolved. At Shiloh, not a good day.
But I mean, just I just don't mean his reputation, but I mean his stature. He climbed the ranks, obviously. And to say that we know people who are on this very, very clearly who are very anti Albert Sidney Johnston, and that if he survived, he would have fallen on his face too. And I mean, maybe he would have, but he had the tools to do well. Whether he was going to get the troops from Richmond was a different story, and that's what ultimately got him, was because he didn't have the men. He had way too few men. But when Joseph E. Johnston takes over, eventually Bragg takes over, eventually Johnston again, then eventually Hood, they ended up with a pretty strong army, the Army of Tennessee. So who's to say that Sidney Johnston would not have evolved the same way? Because he had all the attributes to be a great general, and he gets killed because he gives away his tourniquet of all things. He gets shot behind the leg and bleeds out. That's a huge loss, absolutely huge loss.
Oh, it is a huge loss to the Confederacy, and it was also to Davis as well. And I go back and forth about how I feel about Albert Sidney Johnston, just because of Davis's opinion of him, because of how Davis's opinion, how he views certain people later on in the Civil War, like putting John Bell Hood in charge at the very end is not a very good judge of character, in my opinion. But whatever, like, who knows? And the two of them were very close. They were very good friends. Army of Tennessee is really messed up as well. Larry Day Daniel has a really good book about that talks about kind of the politics that went into the formation of Army of Tennessee. So Albert Sidney Johnston is working with someone that was kind of broken in a way. And, like the people that should have been in charge of Army of Tennessee, like higher up, were not. And instead it was like people who should have been. You saw that at Fort Donelson. Like, who was the guy that was like, I have to go now? Because who was the guy that, like, you talk about him all the time, the one that would like at Donelson? He was in Army of Tennessee.
Oh yeah, he was what's his, oh God, what the hell was his name? I'm blank on it right now. The politician who basically sold, when he was in the Union, sold all the weapons to the South and then joined the Confederacy. But there's a lot of that though. There's a lot of that because a lot of it was not only survival, it was it was just maintaining reputation.
Yeah.
Gideon Pillow, for example, didn't have a great relationship experience at Fort Donelson, but Fort Donelson was a surprise. I mean, Fort Henry was a milk run, but Donelson was a big take. And when you look at what a disaster that was, where you have that you have that breakout, and then you get pushed back, and then that's a good one right there. But there's a lot of it though. I mean, there's a lot of that when you study these people. I personally think that Johnston would have been okay. Floyd, that was a guy.
Yes, Floyd. Yeah, Floyd. Mr. Stealing Weapons.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about Floyd, but Floyd was somebody who was afraid of his neck because as he should have been, because he's somebody who was I know the T word, the traitor word, is like talked by a lot of people, but he's kind of
yes, he was.
But that's the thing. And he's like, I tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave because I don't want to get myself in trouble, and he did that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about it though. When you're studying this stuff, you definitely see a lot of the people. You see guys like John Tyler, who was a U.S. president, how this stuff affected a lot of things down the road. But again, the impact's still being felt today. It certainly is,
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. David said Grant would have beat him to it, but it would take much longer. So maybe the delay is Grant coming east and Old Brain stays general in chief.
I don't think that was ever going to happen because, I mean, he wanted it badly, but he the thing about Halleck was, Old Brains, right? But the 5 head, not a 4 head. Mm-hmm. He was a guy who, he was smart, but he was not the type. He was more of the bookish type versus the field type. Grant was absolutely, there was, speaking of Facebook again, somebody was talking about earlier the 5 most influential people in the Civil War.
I saw that question. Yeah.
And it was a good question somebody had. I had Grant first.
Yeah.
And because Lincoln was second.
Yeah.
I forget who I even had, but I know I had
McClellan Pope on there. McClellan, Pope.
I didn't have Pope.
McClernand, no, not McClernand.
No, I had Porter for the Navy because people, although Farragut gets all the reputation, Porter is the one who really deserves it. Mm-hmm. I had Lincoln, Grant, not a specific order, Porter, McClellan. Mm-hmm. And I also had Jeb Stuart on there because Jeb Stuart's important because
he was your honorable mention.
He was, because Jeb was the one who forced the Union to get their head out of their ass with the cavalry. Yep. He was, because everything that happened with him, George Stoneman was a clown, tripped on his dick everywhere he walked. Yep. And then you end up bringing in, obviously, Pleasanton, who was no picnic either. But you had some really good cavaliers, guys like Dave McMurtry, Greg. Eventually got, Judd Siegel Patrick was a friggin' train wreck, but he was somebody who was aggressive. He was probably too aggressive. That's why they called him Kill Cavalry. Mm-hmm. But going back again to Gettysburg, you talk about that old thing with Elon Farnsworth. Kilpatrick's going to take over for Stahel, and when he takes over, he ends up really being really super aggressive on that late afternoon on July 3rd. When they're going to push and they're going to attack the Confederate right. And if it wasn't for the miscommunication with him and Wesley Merritt with those U.S. regulars, because he reported direct, to Buford, that might have been a different situation. You could have bagged the Confederacy, at least really hit them hard there. But you have that big disastrous attack. We mentioned about William Wells in the first Vermont, but and Farnsworth ultimately gets killed. You know what the first Texans do? They're in this little dirt road, and you can still see the dirt road today where the stone wall is. The cavalry can't go up the road because you know what they do? At the end of the road, they put a bunch of logs up.
Oh wow!
So the cavalry is circling them, right around the Bushman farm by the Slider farm, and that's where Farnsworth gets killed.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. But it's a great place to visit. We should go visit that this weekend. It's because now is the time to go visit the Elon Farnsworth stuff because you can get up there because it's not overgrown.
Yeah. Jim Samia mentions Opinion of Autumn of Glory by Thomas Lawrence Conley, thinking of getting that book. And David Maxwell agrees with you, Porter's greater than Farragut.
Yeah, Porter had a lot of shit thrown at him politically. But Farragut nothing wrong with Farragut. I mean, Farragut, he did what he did. But Porter's really, when you talk about Vicksburg, you're talking Porter. You really are.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But that's the reality of it. Well, we should jump off pretty soon. It's already almost this one flew today. Time flies.
I know it went by really quickly. Yeah, so we
time flies. When you're beating UMass, Samia.
But yeah, have a great day, MJ. We'll see you in a few days. But yeah, we are going to be in Gettysburg next weekend for the Seminary Ridge event. So we will not be doing a Facebook Live next weekend, but we will be back in 2 weeks.
Well, we might do a short one. We might jump on because we're gonna be with some of our history nerd friends out there in Gettysburg. So we might jump on. So
yeah, we might pop on, but it'll be on Facebook instead of YouTube, obviously.
Yeah. So to watch the spot, MJ, drive safe. We will talk to you. We will talk to you soon. So
David, drive safe as well.
David, we got plans on Friday, so make sure you bring your walking shoes. We'll have a good time with that.
Yeah.
And anybody who is in Gettysburg this weekend, definitely reach out. We're happy to hang out and grab a beer, obviously, with anybody. Yeah. And then if you're not in Gettysburg and you have nothing to do on Saturday, definitely check out the Seminary Museum.
Yeah, there is a virtual option available.
Support the awesome Battle of Gettysburg podcast in the Seminary Museum, because that's going to be a great take, and definitely try to do that. So we will look forward to. We should do a live from the mine. We should do that.
Oh yeah, David just said live.
Can you imagine a live of MJ dancing on the bar?
Oh God, I think she's gone now. So
yeah, I could talk about her. She's gone. I'm just kidding. So we'll have fun with that. So everybody, we'll be doing our thing next weekend. So watch the spot. We'll keep up with some different things. We're gonna have a St. Patty's Day episode coming up pretty soon on the Irish Brigade. Do
a couple of St. Patty's Day episodes.
Well, we got to talk about the Claiborne one because I'm pretty sure we already did that one.
We didn't.
No, we'll figure that out. But we're definitely going to be doing one on Marr and all those guys for the Irish Brigade from Antietam to Gettysburg and stuff like that, Fredericksburg and all that stuff. So we will look forward to talking about those episodes soon. And as soon as someone sits down with me to talk about the book club, we will schedule those book clubs. But we will definitely look forward to talking to you all soon. So, Mary, any final words from you, Fincheroo, as we head off into the great unknown of Saturday afternoon?
Thanks for everybody for being here for this. As always, you guys rock. And we will see you, probably be doing a couple of Facebook Lives. So we'll be on Facebook, not YouTube. If we do pop on next weekend, but then we will be back doing our usual live stream probably in 2 weeks. We'll be back.
Yeah, so we'll probably end up doing something live next weekend over there. Yeah. So we're definitely going to look forward to some different things we got going on. Some things are definitely afoot at the Circle K here at the Old Civil War Breakfast Club. All right. So off we go, Mary. Everybody have a great, safe weekend. Hopefully it stops snowing. It looks like it stopped snowing here, but hopefully it's warm where you are.
That's nice.
Spring is coming. Spring training has started. Football is over. Off we go to the warm weather. We cannot wait for that, for the battlefield season and going out to some places and going to be a lot of cool people and seeing a lot of cool things. All right. So